When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I often feel is dread. And that's not because I am in an unsafe environment. It's not because I have a sad or fearful or scary life. No, that's because that's the default tendency of the human brain. We are wired to look for threats and dangers in our environment. And even though we don't have those threats anymore, because we don't live in the jungles anymore, our software is still that old software of our ancestors. So, my first feeling by default will be of dread or, oh, another day, something like that. And then my thoughts will start following that feeling. They'll be mostly negative thoughts. So I have to do something actively to reset those thoughts to positive. As much as I consider myself a spiritual person. I do spiritual work, I listen to spiritual talks and read books and I meditate. As much as I do that, I still have that DNA, that conditioning, that old software that tells me that there's stuff to worry about, and there's fear, anxiety, there's negativity. So I have to do something actively every morning to bring myself from that position of default negativity into positivity. And in other words, as much as when I do the work, when I read the books and listen to talks, I know that I am one with God and I am part of God because God is consciousness and consciousness is in everything and everyone. So it is in me as much as it is in you. As much as I know that, I tend to forget that. And I forget that every single day. So I have to remind myself of the truth every single day. So it's kind of like my ego is so strong that it wants to take control. It wants to be the driver of my car, and to do that, it thrives on insecurity. It thrives on fear and anxiety. So every morning, it's like my ego is like, I'm driving, so I'm going to give you these negative thoughts and this dread and anxiety. But then I have to do something to to say to my ego that no, you please take the back seat or the passenger seat, but my higher self, the truth of who I actually am, not this ego, not this identity of Supreet that my ego wants me to identify with. I have to take that control back from that ego and that identity, that limited self, and take it back to my higher self, the one who I really am, which is my higher self, which is God, which is everyone and everything. So to do that, I need something, and I need reminders every single day. And my current way of doing that is every single day, especially in the morning, I will listen to a new talk by Michael Singer. I either listen to his podcast or there's a channel on YouTube called Seats of Contemplation. There's so many talks that I'm able to find a new one pretty much every morning. And listening to that brings me back to center. It brings me from feeling separated and being my small self to feeling connected with everything, connected with God, and being back to my higher self or my real self, instead of my small self or my ego or my lower self. And I am just amazed that I have to do this every single day. I guess this is the nature of taking the human form, that we forget who we are. We forget that we are always connected to God. We're never separate, but then we just need reminders. We need reminders every single day. And maybe some people don't, who are further ahead in their spiritual journey. But for me, I do need this pretty much every single day. It's like you need healthy food every day, or you need to let's say, do movement, exercise, some sort of movement every day to stay healthy. So, just like that, for my emotional and spiritual health, I do need such reminders every day. And I want to emphasize again, and I've done this in other podcast episodes, is that it can be easy to stay stuck at the level of listening to a talk, for example, or reading a book. As much as I say that I do this every day, sometimes my ego will say, okay, just listen to a podcast instead of meditating. But consuming information, even when it's spiritual content, it does not replace doing the work. I have done this. I have made this mistake where I have said to myself that, okay, I'll just read this book instead of meditating, or I'll just listen to Michael Singer's podcast instead of meditation. But it does not replace meditation or journaling or going for a walk in nature by yourself, whatever your method is, mantra, maybe breathing exercises. You still have to do that work, because staying at the level of the mind by listening to Michael's talks or any other teacher's talks or reading a spiritual book, that's only going to do so much. It is helpful, which is why I still do it every day, but I still have to do the work, which is meditation, journaling, breathing, whatever the case may be for you. And at this moment, for me, Michael Singer happens to be the teacher that I resonate most with. His teachings make sense to me. And even though there is a lot of repetition in his talks, I feel that I need that repetition for the message to really sink inside of me. And sometimes I'll hear the same talk over and over again, because each time I will hear something that I didn't hear before. I'll be able to understand it from a different angle, different perspective. And keep in mind, I am also changing every day, hopefully. So the person who is listening to the same talk, let's say next week, would be different. So she's going to understand it differently, perhaps understand it a bit deeper, something that I didn't get the first time I listened to it. Maybe I'll get it this time. So that's the reason why I listen to Michael Singer every day. And this is a part of my current work, my current spiritual work. I'm not suggesting that you do the same. You listen to whichever teacher or person you resonate with, because we're all different. I just happen to be in this stage of my life at a place where what he says, how he says it, how he delivers the message really resonates with me and appeals to me. But for you, it could be somebody else, and it may not be a podcast or a video. It could be just that you read a book. You read maybe a few pages of a spiritual book every day to bring you back to center. So the key message of this episode is that we need reminders every single day, so that we can come back to the center, so we can go from the smaller self to the higher self, so we can remember that we already are connected with God all the time. And it's just so that we don't act out of our default mode, which is driven by the ego, and we remember to act from our higher self. And it just makes the day go nicely, beautifully. We're less likely to take things too seriously if we have kind of primed ourselves in the morning with something spiritual, like a talk or a text, and more importantly, a meditation or journaling, something like that. The day goes by better, I find. So that's why I do it every day, and I recommend the same to you. Let me know, what is your morning practice? What do you do every day, every morning, to kind of help you not act from your default negative tendencies of the ego? I would love to hear what your morning practice is. And for some of us, maybe we don't have time in the morning, and that's okay. Whenever you have time throughout the day, maybe it's during your lunch break, maybe it's during evening, or just before going to bed at night. As long as you do something every day, morning is preferred, but if that doesn't work for you, then your next best time would be whenever you can make time for that. But like I said, remember to not only consume information, also have some moments of stillness with yourself to do the inner work, to allow the higher self to emerge.